I have a very famous clip that is I'm a masturbator. I think that's one of the symptoms. This is going for the trailer, isn't it?
I think so.
So, Mick, you see how I'm wearing black today?
Okay. Are you mourning?
It's not. It's not because it's the Photomode UNPLUGGed T-shirt that
Which
people
it
can
is.
get on Patreon. It's because we are having a funeral today
Oh,
for virtual photography because virtual photography is dead.
is dead. Is this official?
It's dead. For me, yeah. I'm officially saying virtual photography is dead.
Hold on a minute. For you, it is. So, are you saying that you are quitting virtual photography? Is this what's happening right now?
No, but
Oh.
technically, for about 2 weeks I am because I'm traveling.
Oh, because I was going to say, because next week, if you don't turn up for the episode, then wow.
I have no idea what's happening next week because I'm not in front of any way possible to record.
So, virtual photography is dead, and there's nothing you can do about it. Is that what you're saying?
Okay, it's quickly dying.
Oh, quick. I mean, that's still pretty serious.
It's not terminal. There
No,
might
dying
be a
usually
cure.
is.
Yeah, but it's suffering from a disease, and I don't know, but we can talk about the symptoms of that disease and try to see if it's really going to die or
Okay. This is not a happy topic that you've
it's not a happy
delivered
topic.
today. My top's green actually, so I would be like a triage nurse or something, I suppose.
You know what? Something that we say in Portugal is that our flag has green in it because it symbolizes hope. So maybe you are
right.
the hope
There we go.
on.
That was a total coincidence, but okay. Okay, so is virtual photography dying? I think dying's a strong
Yeah.
word, isn't it?
Yeah. I told you before we start filming that this was going to be clickbaity.
I was going to say, you may even call it clickbait, yes.
Yeah. I have a very famous clip, but because you don't watch my streams and you don't use Instagram, but I have a very popular clip on my Twitch that is I'm a masturbator because I bait people so well.
Fair enough.
This is going for the trailer, isn't it?
I think so. Yes. Wow. So anyway, why are you saying that I don't watch your streams? Are you suggesting that virtual photographers are unsupportive of one another?
Yeah, I think that's one of the symptoms, but not exactly not supporting each other. I think one of the symptoms is that we are seeing more and more virtual photographers turn into other types of content creation, streaming, YouTube, stuff like that, that isn't just taking the photos, because we are seeing, at least for me, we are seeing the trend that there is only so much room to growth, and now we have to expand on other types of content creation. And the problem is, I don't think most virtual photographers, the virtual photography community, let's say, is like, oh, let's go to Twitch and watch people doing exactly what I do, or let's go and read a blog, hear a podcast. They are. We want to take pictures and we want to see pictures, and I think that slowly is killing VP. If people are only hearing this, you should be watching.
But that's the thing, that's the paradox, isn't it? That because of what you just said, they aren't going to be watching this, so to tell them that you need to. I think there's some truth in this though. It's not that people are unsupportive of one another, because you see people, you see in the replies and everything, there's lots of sharing of other accounts and other people's work and very supportive comments, etc. I do think though that the problem is that because it's grown in this kind of social media isolation, a bit of a bubble, and everything's so temporary, because it's so temporary, everyone's having to constantly work to refresh their feed, and that becomes all encompassing, all consuming. And because you're so focused on doing that, you don't really have the time to think, let's go and watch some streams about virtual photography. And that in itself is detrimental to, like you said, to it trying to expand into other areas. I have said for a long time that I think the audience for that wider content, for the blogs, for, like you do actual let's take pictures streams, the people who are wanting to maybe learn from that, I'm not sure that audience as a wider audience is there yet. Virtual photography, in-game photography, whatever you want to call it, has grown a lot. But there isn't really an incentive for people to want to do it to achieve something. Does that make sense? Like, if you want to learn more of how to do something, you generally want to learn it for a reason. And because that reason is kind of only on social media, the incentive isn't really there, other than just, like we said, just churning out the content.
Yeah.
So I just think the audience hasn't quite matured enough to demand those extra platforms.
But do you think... I'm the glass half empty kind of guy on this particular topic. Yeah. But do you think there is still time for the audience to mature to that level?
Well, of course there's time. I mean, there's so many different bits to this. There's so many different factors in this, isn't there? Let's come back to that as kind of a... We'll round up with that. Let's see, does it have time to achieve the change?
Okay, right now we are at minute 7. You know that 30, 40 minutes from now, we will completely forget this question.
Fair enough. Okay, we won't come back to it. We'll do it now because...
we can come back to it.
We'll try.
We can come back to it.
Okay, so to do it quickly then. But yes, there's time for things to change and to recover. Does it need to recover? A little, yeah, actually, because things have become a little bit stagnant. Yeah. That's the trouble. And it does need to spread. It does need to be broader and to actually be engaged with in different ways, because social media is not enough. And
to that point, we proven that the social media is not enough, because this year we saw so many social media platforms appear and disappear at the same on the same week, and we saw probably the biggest bubble of virtual photography completely change. Twitter is X. It's different. It's so different that the name is different.
It's still in that. It's even when you read articles about it, it still says X and in brackets, formerly known as Twitter. They can't just go with it or anything.
it's. We saw social media, the social media game, the aspect of virtual photography changed so much that I think it's proven that we need to evolve. We need to change how we do things beyond just posting and be on social media.
Yeah, and I think the social media itself, like, it's been very volatile. There's no doubt about that. And X has obviously got a big push now towards the premium features. I can see a lot of the benefits of the premium features. It's just the way that they tried to transition it as a verification thing. It's really tarnished it. But there's a perception from myself and others that without, whether it's to do with that have you got premium or not, or whether it's just to do with the content on the platform being less.
What do you mean,
What?
the perception of others? Are you saying you talk about virtual photography with other people?
I'm afraid I do. You feel cheated on. This is not
I don't remember when I said in half an hour we will forget that point. I don't want to do this anymore.
Is that it?
This podcast is officially over. It's dead. This podcast is dead.
Everything. This is a day of mourning. Take that t-shirt off. Burn it.
I have one more in my closet. It's still in the wrap.
But yeah, the perception from me and others was that, you know, they feel that
you think you know someone, you know, you think you know someone, and this is the pay you get.
Oh well, just deal with it. Yeah, the perception is that they feel that the content is less visible than it used to be, and that, you know, interactions seem to have dropped. I don't know if you've felt that, because obviously you've done a lot of work to generate your interactions, so you probably see it more than
so much. It's chilling. I barely get, if I get to 100 likes nowadays.
Yeah.
If I get to a number of views that I'm comfortable, it's very rare, really, really rare. I was surprised to get offered the Cyberpunk 2.0 and the opportunity to cover those early, because my interactions with Cyberpunk have been nearly nothing. And one thing that I noticed, and I did this test especially on Instagram, is that in terms of virtual photography in general, the interactions went down. But since I'm known, quote unquote, as in the God of War community, if I post God of War, those numbers spike. Those numbers, the interactions
to what they used to be, or just compared to other games now?
Compared to other games now,
Yeah.
not compared to what it used to be. On Instagram, funnily enough, it's even better than what it used to be. On Instagram, I get way more reach than what I have in followers, for instance. Then I stopped, like, I think it was last week that I stopped posting God of War. And the other ones came crashing down because I need that game and people to interact with that game to then see my other posts with other games.
And that is part of the problem.
Yeah, it is.
It is part of the problem, because people who I've spoken to
now you're just putting salt into the wound. This is not working.
I'm really looking forward to the fact that you're not here next week. But honestly, people do get fed up of seeing the same thing over and over again. Now, I'm one very much to advocate re-showing your old work, you know. But the trouble is when you're producing new content that is still the same, as in if you're known for one game and one type of portrait or whatever, and that's all that it ever produces from that account, and lots of others, it does become a little bit meh. So what? I feel like I've seen it, and that's part of the problem in terms of the generating interest, I think, because the people who are already involved in that, fine, they might be happy to keep seeing it, but you're thinking about bringing in new interest, and it's like, what's this? It's just a game from 5 years ago. What? So that the fact that the social networks kind of pull people back into being stuck on a game that they're known for, that is a bit of a problem, actually.
Yeah, I used to never have I did what I did with Ragnarok. Ragnarok was the game that I posted for the most amount of time. Like I've taken more photos of other games, but sometimes instead of a set, I would post a single picture because it would last longer. And it lasted almost 1 year in pictures.
Right, well.
And now I have the trouble of that's basically all I'm known for, because it's there is another topic that we can discuss, but it's one of the only developer teams that interact with me. That the account, the studio account, it's the only one of the only that and Insomniac, but Insomniac now are promoting the next game, so Virtua Photographers are stuck playing the old one. If they want to grab people's attention, they need to do content from the older game. So Insomniac doesn't interact that much with those, and that's a problem, because now where do I go from here? Do I keep posting a game that won't bring me a new audience, or do I go back and replay a game that I have very little interest in replaying?
I wouldn't
just
for the sake of, yeah. I mean, but you already gave an example of why you don't necessarily have to worry about that. Cyberpunk that you said.
Cyberpunk, yeah.
Exactly. So you changed the game and you thought that those numbers were not great compared to what you normally see, but that didn't stop the developer actually recognizing the content. So you get hung up, not you, people in general get hung up on the likes and the interactions,
the numbers,
the numbers, and it's a natural thing, because you know, when you produce something, you want it to be seen, and you're given a metric that literally tells you whether it was liked or not. So it's hard to totally ignore that. But there's nothing that the PR agencies, for example, don't take Twitter as one of the platforms that you can sign up with, because the metric is not really useful. Like, it doesn't tell you how much. The views is more important for that, because that is an indication of how much it was seen, how visible it is. But, you know, like YouTube and Twitch, you've got number of hours viewed. So you can, as an advertiser's point of view, you can literally say, this was in front of so many people for so long. You can't do that on a social network. One, because it could be all fake likes anyway, you know. But also, who's to say that they really paid any attention to it?
There is a issue going on most social platforms nowadays, that people are trying to get over, not just virtual photography, but like people that work on social media are trying to get over, is that there is a lot of viewers, but very little interaction. So even a like nowadays is hard to get someone to double click. It's even harder to get a share, and to get a comment is just like close to impossible nowadays.
Yeah, I do feel that comments have dropped, and when you do get reshares, it's from a very narrow group of the same people over and over again. Interestingly,
those 5 people.
Yeah. Thank you. Honestly, the likes don't bother me. I always say this: the views do, because I want it to be visible. If your post is only getting 50, 200 views, whatever, that's not enough. But I value a comment way more than any number of likes.
Always,
I just want to hear what they feel from it. But I totally felt that pictures, at least, were getting a lot less interaction. But yesterday, I did one of my "This is a virtual photography" thread, show me your latest shots. It's the 4th time I've done it this year, over 8 months. And actually, the results surprised me. This turned out to be the most interacted one so far. Initially, the views were low, but the comments were higher than the normal rate, even though it had fewer views. I was like, well, that's confusing, because that destroys my whole argument about you need the views.
Yeah.
But in the end, so I can, like, the last 4, 11,000 views, 10.4, 11.4, and this one's now at 12.7. So it's the highest of them all. Replies, 99, 108, 111, 121. It's the highest of them all. Even the likes, this is the first one to go over 100 on it. So actually, it's a positive trend.
Yeah. That's might be you don't. I copied you,
You always
on
do.
that. I know it's my thing. Like since day one. Uh, the best type of flattery is imitation.
Yeah, well, sometimes it
That's
helps
not
to
the
get your own
that's
ideas.
I don't have that. That's not the same, but that's what like my mindset. But the what I was going to say is that I also dropped the pictures and now only put text.
Yeah.
And just change the name of the game or whatever. And I only did it twice so far, with Spider-Man last week and Cyberpunk this week. And I noticed that the opposite of you, that
Oh, right.
they crashed compared to my other ones.
Okay, but these 4 comparisons are all with no images.
Yeah.
So I can't make that comparison. But I
Okay.
mean, when I just post something, if I post my work, it gets
Yeah.
very little interaction. But that one, obviously, it's got the call to action, great, and people like to share their stuff.
Yeah.
But it was actually encouraging that the interaction is still out there to be had. You know, people did see it and people did respond. So that was a good thing.
Something that might be and one of the reasons why we think interactions are low, and it's that a lot of people actually left Twitter. A lot of VPs stopped posting and changed their platforms. It might be that there are fewer people interacting. Those people that left were the people that, by some form of algorithm magic, were capturing the others to go to your post. Because usually it's people that, from what I've seen, that interact a lot with other virtual photographers. So people will comment. They usually don't just comment on your pictures. They comment on a lot of people's pictures. So let's say that I do in a lot of people, and a lot of people just type the usual thank you or whatever. If people follow me, they will see, oh, Ruben comment on this picture of Mick, and so on and so on. So it's a snowball effect
It's
that
kinda
will
like
grow.
joining the dots, isn't it? If there's more, like more links in the chain.
And when you break one of the dots, when you break one of those, it's natural that the snowball is going to be smaller and smaller and smaller. So with people leaving, something that we didn't talk about during the show was the fact that Elon said that it's possible that they will add a payment fee to every account. And you said something that got me thinking is more people will leave, and in the end you will get a small group of people that are willing to pay, talking with each other.
Yes, but in my experience that doesn't work. That never goes well. It's the same as why I'm never a big supporter of these new social accounts, I don't know what you call them, like I'm new VP gallery, come and put your pictures here. If it's a closed one, I'm not interested, because I want to share it to reach people who I don't know who's going to see it. I don't want it to be like I'm putting it in this confined group and only they can see it, because nothing can ever really grow that way. That would be a bad direction for it to go. So yeah, if that was going to be the case, then that all the more reason why things need to actually develop on other platforms. Not just because of Twitter's payment plans or whatever, but if something's becoming,
too close,
isolated, then it needs to be spread elsewhere. What do you think in terms of how because we've all been talking here about how sort of we see it as people who are sharing the work from the social side. How do you think the perception is from the industry side?
That's the big question mark, isn't it? Because we don't know. I think we are seeing more photo modes because the games that were in development during the time the good times of virtual photography are coming out now. So your Starfields, your Assassin's Creeds, your Armored Cores, those are games that were already in development when everyone was sharing online, where when during the pandemic there were people posting 7 times a day and getting hundreds and hundreds of likes and interactions from everyone around the world. And now you are seeing those photo modes. Will you, if this trend continues, will you see in the next, I don't know, Assassin's Creed probably, but in the next Armored Core, was the response good enough that they were like,
yeah,
well, this was good, let's put it on the next one.
Yeah, that's the danger, isn't it? That if things subside too much, then the perceived demand for a photo mode goes away, and the developers think, we don't need that anymore. The pandemic point is a good one, actually, because you think, all right, Horizon Zero Dawn was 2018, was it? But things
17.
did really pick up in 2021. Because people had nothing else to do, so you couldn't go out with a camera, but you could go into a game with a camera.
The numbers I was getting during the pandemic were so high compared to any other point.
Yeah, it brought more people into it, definitely. And now other interests are available again, so inevitably some of those people who were only passively interested have gone away. I do, though, think that there's more enthusiasm within the studios and the publishers than just, it's hitting some good numbers right now. I don't think they see it quite like that. They do see the value of the content, not just they don't even look at the number of likes. The Cyberpunk thing proves it, literally proves it.
Yeah.
But, I reach out to a lot of developers, for example, to try and get people on the judging panel for the awards. Now, usually that's positively received. If I get a response at all, which I often don't, the majority of the responses are positive. I did get a big rejection this year, which was unfortunate. Not because they've we're not interested in that. They felt that they couldn't do it, or they didn't want to do it in that way, whatever.
So Kojima is not on the judging panel this year.
Well, Hideo Kojima is very unlikely to be on the judging panel, isn't he? I don't have that pull quite yet. But others you've spoken to are absolutely interested. And similarly, you might get hold of someone who says, oh yeah, we love photo mode internally, so go speak to this guy. Then usually that's the PR guy, and that's where things break down, because you don't get a response.
The PR guy isn't interested in the photo mode.
Or they're so busy that you're just a little blip. But they do have enthusiasm for it. So I think it will carry on. Can you think of any other game feature that has come along and then faded out again?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Tough question. Maybe a question for another day, but...
But on the top of my head, no. I think because... I think the rise of virtual photography is very much connected to the rise of social media, to the rise of the internet. There was virtual photography or in-game photography since there were games. It's the way games are sold. You show pictures of those games. But the broader appeal for the mass audience came with image-based social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I think that's a feature they won't give up on just because of that. The numbers might not be as high as they were. The number of people participating on the sharing of photo mode shots, but the people using the share button, the people using captures, the people clipping, those are still present. And that, I think that will continue.
I I do agree. I think you're right, and I certainly hope so. But there is one, when you said the clicking of the share button, it just reminded me. Have you seen the new Xbox controller? They've removed having just added the share button. Firstly, they added in the software the ability to remap the share button to play media or play and pause media or other whatever's. But now the new controller has got rid of the icon for share. And there's a little bit like, the fact that they're making that button unilateral and not dedicated means that they're not really committed to a share button.
One time I asked you what you thought about the Activision Blizzard acquisition from Microsoft, and your answer was, it's a publisher buying a studio. It's a publisher that doesn't support virtual photography buying a studio that doesn't do virtual photography, so I don't care. I think that's just Xbox. They don't care. They
don't seem
like
to.
Starfield having a photo mode. It's like, whoa. Forza having a photo mode. It's whoa. But they don't do anything. Like the account, the Starfield account, the Forza account. They might ask and they might do, but like they don't have a share of the week or anything similar. Like the share of the year, they don't do it. They don't support it.
That kind of brings me on then to what I think is really needed, and it will change the field like quite a lot, is more reason to do it. So at the minute, the reason people take the pictures is to join the social media circles and to share and stuff and get interactions like that. If you have greater motivation for other purposes, completely different reasons, like stuff that will make people think, that's a useful task, a useful skill to go and learn, I want to go and do it, that's what will bring people in. I can't really tell you exactly what that is right now. People will say, it's because we want everyone to work for the studios and do captures.
You reminded me of a story that you told me when the London's Game Fest was happening this year, and a father and a little girl went close to the Zelda one, and they asked you like, or they told you, she does this all the time, how can she participate next year? I think those kinds of events, those kinds of contests are really good to bring people in other than just the social media.
Yeah. It's a sense of achievement, I guess. People always like prizes, right? So yeah, that's good. But if you look at some of the big contests that we've had, Red Bull Capture Point's one of the biggest ones. We've had it twice. Didn't happen this year. No.
Yeah. Lisbon Games Week is very unlikely to have a virtual photography thing this year. Other than the community spotlights and PlayStation share of the week, can't remember of any that kept going for more than one or twice or two.
Yeah, most of them are just a few times. There are a few of the community spotlights around now, aren't there? But yeah, most of that kind of thing is kind of third-party community accounts and the likes, actually. But yeah, I just would like to imagine stuff. I don't actually know what it would need to be quite honest. But I'd like stuff that gives people more purpose to do it. As like take normal photography. There's reasons to do photography because you can be a professional photographer. And I'm not just saying everybody should be a professional screenshot artist. There's a lot more to that than there is just simply using a photo mode and going, here's another pretty portrait. That's not what the game marketing needs, actually. But there's lots of ways that you can learn and do photography that are beneficial. And I think in-game photography needs a bit more variety like that. And to be honest, even the different platforms could be part of that. If it becomes popular on YouTube, that's another reason to go and do it. Because if there's something to be gained from doing it, more people will want to do it. And
for sure, yeah.
That's when you said it's dead, it isn't dead. But one of the things that is a problem is that the main motivation to do it has declined.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. For sure. I'm a bit speechless because, I think you're 100% right. Like, I have no counterpoint at all. I think part of the problem is exactly like social media has been so chaotic this year that the main motivation is gone. Like you said, you actually reminded me, like, when you said that people need a motivation to do it. Did you know that this year Flickr had the World Photography Day contest again, and one of the categories was virtual photography because they introduced that category last year, so they kept going. Last year we talked about this. The winners, you actually pointed this out to me. It was a portrait of Second Life.
Yeah.
And the guy that picked the winner was...
He was the creator of Second Life. It's,
what?
It's an enormous coincidence that nobody could have predicted. I mean, Second Life is well known in virtual photography circles for its fine photography opportunities, or not. But yes, that's what happened. And that, okay, whatever, that's fine. Maybe it was just simply the best picture, but
yeah. But this year, I scroll through every one because I'm active on Flickr. I post almost every picture that I post on social media. I post on Flickr just to keep a record, and every contest that they have, they simply ask you to use the tag. So I used it, and I went through and looked at the tag several times to see the entries. Most of them are either from, like you pointed out, games that aren't known for virtual photography, and they are simple screenshots, some of them with the HUD, and others are, and there are tons and tons of this section, AI created images. So, and there are a lot of less entries in the virtual photography part than others. There are a lot of less entries this year than last year. It's it was a pain to see
less
that
than
album.
last year. That's a bad thing to hear.
Yeah.
I would be I'd be very concerned. Like all the stuff about my interactions seem lower, you can just get over that. You just move on. If I get to the awards, and because they've had such a good upward trajectory, if that suddenly goes down, then I would be very worried. I'm like, have we peaked now and we're on the way down, or is it just now fluctuating? Don't know.
I have no idea how Flickr keeps the lights running. I think the whole of Flickr is...
Well, it's part of SmugMug, isn't it? So I don't know, but they sell prints and things. The thing with Flickr, it's a bit of a double-edged sword, this one, because on one hand, it's really good that a big photography brand, if you will, is doing their bit to support virtual photography. On the other side of it, though, is if they don't really understand what in-game photography, what screenshot art is, they can undermine it again. So you remember years ago when you would often get people going, oh, it's just taking a screenshot then, and they would dismiss any of the involvement that goes into the composition. They'd say, you just take a screenshot, that's just the game. If they start to sort of facilitate that, it brings the credibility back down, and that will have knock-on effects of, again, this interested audience might see it and see it as being pointless. So that's...
I'm worried. In general, like when I suggested this, I am worried about virtual photography. I'm worried about this art form because, like you said, we grew as a community, as a art form, and now it seems it's not stale. But it's not moving either. It's like I think it's slowly declining, and that worries me.
Time will tell, I guess. I mean, the biggest positives probably to take is that there's more Photomodes coming out this year than there has been any other. Like this next month alone, like we've just had Starfield, we've just had the Crew Motorfest. Next week there's Assassin's Creed, then there's Lords of the Fallen, then Hot Wheels, then Spider-Man.
Lords of the Fallen has a photo. It's not ready yet.
As far as I know, it does. Well, look, at launch, I don't know, but as far as I know, the game will have one. I'm not saying it. I don't know if it does or not, so don't quote me on that. But as far as I know, it's gonna have one. At least I'm guessing it does. But again,
Spider-Man. Then you have Avatar, Hot Wheels.
Yeah, but Hot Wheels we don't actually know for sure, but the previous one did. So I'd be
like
amazed.
Avatar, one of the biggest franchises in the world, is going to have their first game, and a photo mode is assured.
Being Ubisoft, you'd imagine, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of photo mode, and that's not even including all the stuff like all of the smaller games, all the little indie games. A lot of which include photo modes, and even better, there's been tons of games about photography. You know, like that use photography as a gameplay mechanic.
Yeah.
So there's Viewfinder just recently, Season, Toem, ISO. There's lots. Now, I always think that's a good barometer of trends, as in when something becomes popular, then people make games that include that. Does it also mean that that's just a temporary thing? I don't know. Hopefully not.
Like I said, all these games were developed during the big burst.
Yeah.
So
maybe. I don't know.
Glass half full, glass half empty kind of conversation here. But yeah. Anything else that you want to say on the topic?
No, I don't have a what do you call it? What's the thing that you read out at the funeral?
Oh, epitaph? No.
Yeah, I don't have one of those prepared anyway. So
okay.
We're here to remember our dear
Truth of Taurus. Okay. So I won't see you next week.
Yes.
Or will I?
No. I don't know, or will it? We'll see.
Bye.